Hey there guys, good night before here and welcome back to a brand new episode of Schooled, the game show where I go back to all of the old Skylanders games and put the older Skylanders into battle classes like the Senseis into Skylanders Imaginators. Now today we're looking at Smashes and oh boy do we have a whole lot of Smashes to get through. So, when I was talking about the bazookas I mentioned the word pulverize a lot. Well, you ain't heard nothing in terms of that word just yet, because trust me, I'm going to be utilising it a lot in this episode as well, because Smashers, what they are all about is getting towards their enemies and absolutely pulverising them up close. They stand no chance of getting out of their destructive grasp. So, starting us off with Spyro's Adventure, we have Voodoo, Bash, or Crash, whatever you want to call them, Whamshell, Boomer, and Stump Smash. Oh, see you, Boomer. But yeah, all of these characters are melee oriented, except for Boomer, Stump Smash, and Bash. They all have... In fact, no, that's a total lie. They all have some sort of ranged attacks. How silly of me. But anyways, point is, their ranged attacks are not the main focus of these characters, because instead the main focus of these characters is to get up close and personal with enemies, and just smash the heck out of them from that close quarters combat, mind you. Voodoo in particular, his ranged attack is used to pull him closer to enemies, to swing his axe at them in those close quarters, so his enemies have no chance of escaping his destructive grasp. So the axe just absolutely slams down upon you with no stop in its pulverization, you could say. Bash does the same. He rolls up towards you with great speed only to start tail swiping you down, and his tail swipes are so powerful to where they are gonna hurt, and because of that he singles out enemies to absolutely pulverize them in single blows at close quarters. That makes the two of them right there Smashers. Moving on to Whamshell here, he is a mixture between Brawler and Smasher, I would say, but he's more so a Smasher purely because he has that Poseidon strike ability, which is highly based around being very powerful up close to enemies so that they cannot escape his destructive grip. And then Stump Smash, well, he literally has Smash in the name, how can you not call him a Smasher? But just in case it wasn't clear enough, his hammers are extremely powerful and deal a whole lot of damage, and that's because of their destructive nature. Stump Smash doesn't just hammer them down with small amounts of effort. No, he goes out of his way to smash them down as hard as he can. He just smashes enemies, absolutely pulverizes them, just gets right in there and smashes his hammer down on them. Literally, his catchphrase is drop the hammer. That emphasizes how hard he drops the hammer on them, nonetheless, and that very much makes him a Smasher. Now, Boomer is probably the most controversial one on this list right here. Now, I've said he's a Smasher purely because he pounds the ground, and he pounds it so hard that it creates a rumbling effect around him. So that's a pretty hard pound, but apart from that, he's not really got much smashiness to him, so this is really the only class I could put him into, because based on that ground pound alone, but I can easily see why you'd find a different class suiting for Boomer as well. But either way, moving for Spyro's Adventure characters out of here, we can instead move on to Giants. Now, Giants have a lot of strength, so of course, naturally, some of them will make for great Smashers. So in that case, those come in the form of T-Rex or Crusher. Now, T-Rex, you can literally charge your attack to make his hand slam even more powerful. In fact, he smashes with that arm of his so hard that he creates a ripple effect just as Boomer did. So his raw strength in close quarters combat to absolutely just crush his enemies and slaughter them, bury them into the ground even, that's enough. He has enough power to do so even, and that is very much a Smasher tactic of his. Not to mention, he doesn't even have his arm smash to him only. He can also charge and perform an elbow drop, which creates that same ripple effect because of its Smasher-based properties. And a Crusher is clearly a Smasher as well, because he pounds his hammer into the ground so hard he shuffles the ground around him. And above all, he's just very, very strong at pounding his enemies into the ground. It would bury them if he wanted to. And not to mention his other abilities are all about supporting that main smasher based ability with his hammer right there, such as freezing enemies so he can pound into them even more. That hammer is emphasised both in his design and his moveset, making him very much a smasher. But moving on to Swap Force next, we have Rubble Rouser, Scratch, and Rhino. Now, originally, Rhino and Scratch were brawlers, but before I started the video, I thought they would make better smashers, purely because Scratch, sure, well, she does have her combos to her, which would make her a brawler. When she gets up close, however, she is more she puts more emphasis even on destructive natures. So basically, she scratches her enemies and she does not stop. She has mindless destruction in those scratch-based abilities and that laser-based abilities of hers. And so above all, that meleeness and the whole mindless destruction to it makes her a smasher in my personal opinion. And the same with Rhino. Now whenever you throw a temper tantrum, your aim behind that temper tantrum is to cause as much destruction as possible. Like when you're angry, the best way to take out your anger is by punching the ever-living crap out of something, and that's very much what Rhino does. He has a lot of destructive nature behind those temper tantrums, and that's really what makes him a smasher more than anything. His lust to destroy things. It's a psychological thing of his. Like, that's the thing, that's what distinguishes smashers and brawlers. The fact that smashers psychologically want to just pulverize the heck out of their enemies, and that's very much what Rhino wants to do, which is what makes him a smasher. And Rubble Rouser is a smasher as well, for basically the same reasons as Crusher. He is Crusher just as a swapper, because he hits his hammer on the ground so hard with so much destruction that it causes the ground to ripple and everything. And you guys can forget that pulverized counter. It seems like you're going to need a destructive counter as well for this one. But anyway, apart from that, moving into Trap Team, our only core from Trap Team is Fist Bump, who creates a ripple effect from how hard he pounds the ground, just like previously mentioned Earth characters. So above all, he has a lot of strength and power in his ground pounds and his smashes and everything. So those are all smasher-based moves with his destructive capabilities and everything. But moving on to the Trap Masters, we have a bunch of them here. Now, just like several other characters, you could argue that Bushwhack and Wildfire are brawlers as they aim to combo their enemies. But the thing is that their combos are so powerful and are based around pounding the ground or pounding the ever-living crap out of their enemies, rather than being smart and statistical about their melee-based combos. So because of that power behind them, they suit smashers much more, I'd say. And then there's also that psychologicalness about them, with the fact that they are out for blood. And not to mention Wildfire, just like Voodoo, has a ability that's all about drawing in enemies so they cannot escape his destructive grasp. Brawlers would trick their enemies into coming into combat, whereas Wildfire, as a smasher, forces it. And that's what makes him a smasher more so than a brawler. And not to mention, there's that soldier ability. You cannot tell me, after witnessing this guy's soldier ability, that he's not a smasher. Could you see the mindlessness behind his destructive capabilities with that soul gem right there? You bring out that soul gem and he is just gonna pulverize everything in sight. And then there's Wallop. Wallop, just like Rhino, throws a whole lot of temper tantrums aimed towards his enemies to cause all sorts of destruction and havoc. He's out for blood, and he's basically there to pound things as hard as he can, and that's very much a smasher-based mindset and moveset on top of that. So, all of those guys are rightfully smashers. But as for our last character, we have Hammerslam Bowser. Our only Superchargers character is a guest star, what do you know? But what makes Bowser as a smasher is the fact that he has a hammer which he pounds into the ground. Not as hard as the other characters, mind you, because he doesn't exactly create a ripple from that. But it's still a smasher-based ability, the fact that he just wants to absolutely annihilate his enemies and see them pulped into tiny little pieces. And on top of that, he has a giant Giga Bowser form, which, just like Wildfire, is designed around destruction and destruction alone. So, he is very much a smasher. But that basically concludes it for this here schooled episode. This is the biggest episode so far, and the fact that we have 15 smashes here, which is the most we've had out of any battle class, but that shall soon change. But hey, you're going to have to wait for tomorrow for that, for the next episode of Schooled. But until such a moment, peace! And thanks as always for watching.